Valentine's Day, and welcome back to the Suburban Chateau. I'm Stephanie Everett, and today I'm going to be sharing just a tiny craft project for you. I have a really great Valentine's video from last year. I'll make sure to put a link in the description, but today I'm just going to be working on some pocket pillow covers, and I have two different sizes of pillow forms that I wanted to work with. And these are pillow forms. One I used from my Christmas pillows, and the other is just a standard size that I found at a local craft store. So I have two different sizes of pillows that we're going to be working on today. But today we're going to especially be making pillow covers that you can remove, so that you can store the pillow covers and use the pillow form for the next season. And I'm finding that pillow storage is one of my #1 issues when I do like to make different pillows for different holidays. So today we're going to be sticking with Valentine's Day. Now, the first pillow I'm going to make is from a vintage piece that I picked up at an antique store this summer when I was with my daughter, and we were in Ligonier, Pennsylvania. Now, I was thinking I could make one pillow from this beautiful piece of vintage roses, probably some sort of a table runner. But when I looked at it, I thought this would make two beautiful pillows. So when I folded it, they're identical. So I'm going to have matching beautiful roses. And I'm going to just make on the sides some string ties. So I'll be covering up 3 sides will be attached to the backing, and then we'll be just stuffing the pillow form in from one of the sides, which already is hemmed. That's why we like to use pre-made things. Makes life so much easier. And I'll be backing those 2 pillows with just a piece of remnant red velvet that I found. Of course, I'll bind the edge of the red velvet, so when it comes time to match up the sides, it'll be a super simple job. So there's my first pillow that we're going to have. Now, our second pillow project is from something that is not vintage, but it's one of my favorite designers. And you might have, if you watched my designer video or print media video a few weeks back, you'll know that Rachel Ashwell is one of my all-time favorite designers. And I found this table runner at our local, I'm sorry, but I'm going to say it, TJ Maxx. I get hollered at every time I do, but there's so many neat things there. So it's a table runner, but it has 2 sides to it. It's lined on the back. It has great piping. I took one look at this, and of course, I'm thinking, pillow, of course, right? And then I remembered that I had this size pillow form. And so I went over and I checked it out, and of course, this size pillow form is gonna fit inside this table runner beautifully. So my plan is, and let's hope this works out well, my plan is to cut this table runner directly in half, and I'll show a little video of myself doing that. And then I'm going to use the piping that is already on the table runner to cover the 4th edge. So we have 1, 2, 3. I'll be able to make 2 pillow cases, pillow slips out of this one table runner. And all I have to do is work on the one side. I'll use, it's got a blue velvet piping, which I just think is absolutely gorgeous. So I'm going to use that blue velvet piping on the other side of our pillow slip. And then I'm going to use just some red velvet ties to tie the one end. So the one end will be open. We will stuff the pillow form in, tie the ties, and I'm pretty excited to see how these 2 work out. And then I don't have to store them, which a lot of my pillows, they're already stuffed, and it's kind of a storage nightmare. And then I hope to show you a little bit of our whole living room decor with everything and the 2 new pillow slips filled in. So I hope you enjoy a little bit of crafting today for Valentine's Day. The first step for the vintage pillow slips was to cut the 2 pieces of the vintage, I don't know if it was a table runner or something like that, but I cut the 2 pieces apart, and I thought I was filming, so I wasn't, but I think they turned out really nicely. I kept them together And the other thing is, I want to make sure when I put these together that I have the top of the design in both of them. So what I found when I cut them apart is that when I cut them, the top for the one pillow is going to have the raw edge, and the bottom of the other pillow is going to have the raw edge, which is absolutely fine because the edge we need to be nice is that side, right side on both pieces. So I think it'll work out fine. So we need to cut 2 squares of the velvet, and I'm going to cut them along the selvage, or not the selvage, yeah, the selvage. The red velvet, and I'm going to cut it upside down just because I don't like messing with velvet too much, and we'll just do it from this side. And I want to make sure I have enough of that velvet to make its own hem, and I'm gonna be pretty generous there because there's definitely some of the selvage, and then it comes into velvet, and I've got plenty here to play with. So I'm going to make sure, I'm going to say a good more than an inch and a half on that side, and that's the side that's going to have the hem. I'm trying to think it through because obviously I have to use opposite sides together, so I gotta make sure I got this right. Okay, and so now I'm ready to cut my velvet, just using the template of my original vintage piece. I wonder if they made these to be made into pillows. I don't know. I just know I was all excited. I think I spent maybe $10 on the piece altogether, but then I thought I can make 2 pillows out of it easily. And then I just had this red velvet laying around, so that was absolutely no cost, which is always my favorite. So that one's done, and I'll cut the other one, and then we'll, all we have to do is make a hem on this side of this one and stitch 3 sides together. Super easy pillow, super easy. One thing I thought of as I was cutting these 2 pillows is that I might want to have them tie on opposite sides, because if they sit on the same couch or the same seat, it would be nice if they were balanced and one had the ties on the left and one had the ties on the right. So I think that's the direction I'm going to go into. It doesn't make any difference. I did the cutting and it will work out just fine. I'll just have to be thinking hard when I put it all together and assemble which side's going to be open. So either one will work, and I think it's going to turn out just beautifully, but I had to sort of think about which side I wanted to be open on both pockets. So I've got my iron ready to just iron in these little hem sides of the velvet at a low heat so that we don't melt it, because velvet is very delicate and will melt. So I want to make sure. I just started my iron out with the velvet, and I'm just going to iron in that hem and then go back and sew it in. Next, I'm going to attach the velvet strips to the hemmed side that I want them to be on. And I'm going to eyeball this. I like it to be about 1/3 of the way down on both sides. And I think it's gonna have to be this way. Yeah, whoops, almost did that wrong. So it's gonna have to be coming up from the bottom. So I'm just gonna stitch over where the stitching is on the actual hem, and just sort of eyeball that in thirds. And then it'll be very easy to match that up when I have the red velvet side done. So I have sewn the 2 velvet strips onto the vintage side of the fabric, and then I'll just fix the other 2 strips to the velvet side of the fabric, and then I'll sew the 2 together. So I'm gonna sew my red seam of the velvet, and then I have my velvet strips pinned. When I get there, I'll secure them as well. And then the whole back side of the pillow will be ready to attach to the front side. Now I've pinned my right sides together, and I just have to do the 3 sides and get the 3 seams all hooked up, and then we'll stuff it with a pillow form. And here's what the pillow slip looks all completed. Just stuff it and it'll be a beautiful pillow. So I thought we'd go ahead and put the pillow forms in to our vintage pillows. Let's see how they work out. I always like to take the tag off. It says not to take the tag off. It's so much fun to take the tag off. So here is our final product, our vintage pillow, and we backed it with the beautiful red velvet, and then that will go so well into my decor. So excited to see how that turns out with everything I've decorated for Valentine's Day. Now the first step on my transformation for the table runner is simply just to cut the table runner in half. So I've just put the 2 sides together, and we're gonna cut as straight as we can right down at the half. It is a little nerve-wracking, but we can always fix it up as we go. I'm just gonna cut it right on that fold. That was pretty easy. Now we have 2 separate pieces, and you can already see the whole concept coming together. The reason I really love this pillow or this table runner, I don't know if you can see it from the video, but this is completely all embroidered. And the one table runner, I believe, was $16.99. So I'm gonna make 2 pillow slips out of it, and it's embroidered. And I love embroidery, and I love this whole, it's the farmhouse from Rachel Ashwell, and I just love her design style. So to see that beautiful embroidery, and it will be a sideways heart when it's all done, but I think it'll be really, really pretty. And I'm excited to see how it all turns out. Next, I'm just going to take my seam ripper and expose that blue piping further. And I don't want to go too far because I do want to enclose the 2 sides. But we're going to just get it, it's coming apart very nicely actually on both sides, so it shouldn't be a big deal. And then I'm going to reuse the piping, just keep it attached, and that 4th side of the pillow form will have the 2 pieces of piping that will meet in the middle. That's kind of what I'm thinking, but we're just going to really carefully remove the blue piping. This should be an easy put together too. When I put it all back together, it should be pretty simple to make. I love to use, when I'm working with different types of linens, I love to use pre-prepared things because you really can make all kinds of interesting and unusual things. A lot of times they're already 75% of the way done, and all you have to do is that one creative bit. Like for this, it'll be just the one side that I'm gonna fix up. But really, really well, it's pulling quickly away from that pretty nicely. So I have the piping peeled back on both sides of my cut table runner. And just to make sure that I have the adequate size for the pillow slip, I am going to stuff very carefully, because I don't want to pull any more of the piping out, but I'm going to stuff my pillow form in here just to make sure it's the right length. And then we're going to start cutting on the sides and really start putting things back together. It was a really simple fix, starting about, I've maybe spent 10 minutes on this so far, so it's really coming along quickly. I just want to make sure that we're just about right with this pillow form. Well, I've tried it out and I think I have just the right size for the pillow slip. So now I'm going to be cutting off the sides and prepping them to put everything back together. And then of course the pillow will be a sideways pillow with, of course, the blue velvet piping all around, and there'll be some velvet bows here on the edge that pull the sides together. Next, I'm going to cut the back section, and I am going to cut enough that I can turn it in twice and hem this section so it'll have a nice finish on the back. So maybe about an inch from where I want the edge of the pillow form to be. So I'm just make sure everything is laying flat. And then about an inch from the fold where I have it right now. Just a little nerve-wracking, but I think it's going to turn out great. Nice thing, when I opened it up, it has some sizing on the back, so it's kind of nice. That's going to keep it nice and strong. And I'm going to save that piece as a guide for the next side as well. And I'm going to cut my front at just about the same place, because it will be folding in, and of course the piping will be attached to that front side. So I'm going to cut that just about the same place. And again, saving those two to keep me from having to remeasure the second piece. Now for each side, I'm going to need 4 of the velvet ties, and this is just some beautiful velvet cloth ribbon that I purchased for crafting along the way. So I'm going to size this up, and I'm going to go ahead and cut 8 so that I have the right amount for the other pillow as well. So I'm just going to eyeball this up. Now I put the 2 ribbons in at about 1/3 and 2/3 of the way, and we're just going to stitch up this hem, and I tuck the edges of the velvet ribbons inside so it would be again a little bit more polished and finished. Just using a straight stitch. And I'm working with a Juki. This is an industrial machine that has been fitted with a single phase motor. I've been working with this machine for many years, over 20 years, and it's just really great, especially when you're working with a thick amount of fabric or running over pins or things like that. It really works well. Making sure I catch that hem. I think I'm gonna have to go back. I missed it a little bit on that side. I'm really pleased with how that came out, and now that will be the outside of the back of the pillow cover. So, and then the velvet ties will come up and tie the whole thing together. It's gonna look really good. Now I took an extra minute to pin all the piping to this last side because I want it to really look nice and finished. Once I sew that down, then I'll fold this back and give it a final top stitch, just like the rest of the table runner. So I'm pretty excited about how this is working out. Of course, we'll add the other velvet cords as well. And the last step is I turned under that hem and I'm going to top stitch it so that it matches the rest of the table runner. Big thing is I just want to make sure I don't accidentally sew in the other velvet ties when they're coming past. So I'm going to move those guys way out of the way. And here we go. And here's the April Cornell. I love these. I'll put these long ways. I have a wider couch that these will fit on well. You can see the little ties. So they did turn out great. Took a little more time than I anticipated, but I'm really pleased with the end product. So I hope you have a wonderful Valentine's Day. Check back here for more craft ideas at Suburban Chateau.